Welcome to Massive Late Fee. And now here are your hosts, Mark and Carol. Hey everybody, welcome back to Massive Late Fee. My name is Mark. With me as always is my girlfriend Carol. How you doing, Carol?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We've had a pretty good week. This week, we passed around episode 2 around school. Some people from some other schools expressed some interest. They heard about it, so I've had to buy some more blank tapes, and we have kind of increased our audience, so to speak. So, that's good. People seem to really enjoy us talking about the pop culture of the day.
Of course they enjoy it. How could they not? It's us.
But it is January 15th, 1994, and we've got some follow-up news. I'm sure you guys have now heard about this because this is becoming a big story about the Nancy Kerrigan news that we broke last week on the show. Apparently, there is some rumors and some arrests have been made, investigations going on, that Tonya Harding's husband, Jeff Gillooly, was part of a conspiracy to hurt Nancy Kerrigan. It seems like Tonya Harding was probably in on this too, although that hasn't been determined at this time. Unclear whether or not she is going to compete in the Olympics. Nancy Kerrigan looks like she will probably recover. I don't know how much this injury will hurt her chances, but this is, it's really exploding. I mean, the Olympics start next month, and it's unclear who the Americans have as far as skaters go. This whole story is crazy.
So wait a minute. So we've got Tonya Harding may or may not even be in jail or, facing charges or whatever, and then Nancy Kerrigan's still recovering.
Yep, that's correct.
We don't have anybody else?
There are some other, I'm not too keen on all the names. I don't follow Olympic figure skating super closely, but there are some others, but nobody that's in top contention for, gold, silver, or bronze medal.
So we're just screwed this year, sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, unless Kerrigan can recover, I don't know. It's, I'll tell you what, I think that a lot of people are going to be watching, especially, let's say that for whatever reason, either Tonya Harding wasn't involved in it, or they don't arrest her, or they don't ban her from the sport. And she skates, and Nancy Kerrigan also skates. That, honestly, I don't know if that's the best thing for the criminal justice system, but that would be the best thing for the Olympic Committee, because that would be widely watched.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll keep you updated on this story as new information becomes available, but just craziness. It appears some sort of conspiracy, lots of people involved. Some guy named Scant and, Gillooly, weird name.
That is a weird name.
And a couple other people involved as well. So, just craziness there. The other thing I wanted to talk about, this is not necessarily news as far as you're not going to see this on Entertainment Tonight or something like that, but Carol showed me the internet. We talked about it on our first episode, and I got one of those AOL discs, and I went on. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is.
You can go to these different chat rooms and just talk to anyone around the world. And I think a lot of it is people kind of trying to find people to date and stuff like that. It seems like a lot of that, or people flirting and stuff like that. But there's this one that I went to where it was guess the song, and people would put in it was like a game that they started in this chat room. Okay. It was like a music themed chat room, and it was someone puts in the first couple lines of a song, and then everyone tries to guess it, and whoever guesses the song first, then it's their turn to do a song and see if everybody can guess that. So that's a pretty fun game that people just kind of invented. And it's funny, I was playing with people from Toronto in Canada, and people from like as far away as we're in Michigan, obviously, but people as far away as Las Vegas and Los Angeles and things like that. And it's crazy to think that without a phone, you can just talk to somebody that far away, and it's like, I don't know, it seems like a more personal communication than a phone in some ways.
How is that?
Well, because you're able to like write so much, you know what I mean? Like it's, I don't know, it's sort of like you were saying, it's kind of like I'm sure a lot of you haven't been on the AOL or anything yet, but it's sort of like writing a letter. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of personal communication that you can put into a letter.
Right.
So it's sort of like writing a letter and a phone conversation kind of at the same time.
But mostly you're talking to strangers, so I don't get very personal. Do you?
Well, no, I don't get very personal, but there are people that do, But yeah, so that's definitely interesting. I came across, I was looking around at a bunch of different things on there, and I came across there are these things that are called sites. So there's not a lot of them right now, but you can go. I got Netscape Navigator just came out, and you can use it to go to different places that are on I think they're calling it the World Wide Web, or the net, stuff like that, but you can go to different places on there where different people have basically, I don't know how to describe this. It's kind of like a storefront. You know what I mean? Like if you're like walking in a mall and you see all the different storefronts and they all have their own signs, this is the limited, and stuff like that.
Well, I love the mall, so you got me there, okay.
And so it's kind of like that. There are these different sites, they have their own names and they have their own signage and stuff like that. And they do different things. And there's this one that I saw, it's called Amazon, like the river.
Okay.
And they sell books.
Oh.
So, I know, like, obviously when we want, we go to Borders or B. Dalton's.
Mm-hmm. I love going to Borders.
But, yeah, that's one of my favorite places, too. I like reading a lot. But, yeah, so they sell books through the mail, basically.
So why would you order it online like that instead of going to the store?
Yeah, I don't know, because, you can't really read it. So I guess it would have to be something that you really wanted, that you really knew you wanted. You know what I mean? Because you can't, obviously, like when you go to Borders, you can pick up a book, you can look through it, you can kind of get a sense of what it is and if you want it and stuff like that. This, you can't. You can't read any of it. It's just pictures of the books. Okay. So it's just the titles. And then if you want, but I think the hook of it is that if it's a rare book that they don't have in some bookstores, they could probably get it for you. Like, I know there's been a couple times with some rarer Stephen King books, because I'm a big fan of Stephen King, where it's because he does some limited edition stuff. Uh-huh. It's harder to find in bookstores, although they usually can order it for you.
Exactly. So it seems kind of, I don't know, pointless.
Yeah, I don't think that it will last. Mm-mm. I know there was a VHS that I saw of like kind of like an instructional thing on how to use the internet and stuff like that.
Okay.
And they talked about the different shopping that you could do on there. And I don't really think that will ever go anywhere because I mean it's so important when you're shopping for just think of anything, food obviously, but even like a bed or a couch,
Makeup.
yeah, you want to try this stuff. You want to see it. You want to be able to touch it. And you want to be able to look around at different things.
Yeah.
So I don't really think that it will probably take off. I think probably more of the future of it is the talking to people, because I think people like to communicate with other people and kind of get those ideas out. I know the government and stuff is using it to put a lot of information on there, which is kind of cool too.
Yeah.
And they have this. I think. I think a good thing that they could put on there is like an encyclopedia type thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that would probably be good, and for like research papers and things like that. You know what I was thinking? Selfishly, we spend all this money on cassette tapes to make copies of the show we're doing, and we send them out to people and everything. I thought, how cool would it be if there was some way that we could put our show on the internet and people could just listen to it?
Yeah, I mean that would be cool. I have no idea how you would do something like that though, but I mean
I don't really think you can, because I know they have pictures and stuff on there, but I don't think you can really play like not that much sound.
I mean we could make a website like you're talking about, like the storefronts, to advertise and sell our stuff, maybe.
Like to sell the tapes?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe some people who aren't local would want them.
I don't know. Maybe if we have some ambition, maybe I don't even know how. I don't know how they do this, where they put the pictures and stuff up there. I'd have to probably take a class, or I don't know.
That sounds like a lot of work. Forget that.
So, yeah, I mean, no one's going to buy this anyway. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to give us money for this.
Right.
But yeah, I just wanted to tell you guys about the experience that I had with the AOL disc. Mine gave me like 30 free hours. I still have, I think, around 15 or 10 hours left. But you can get these discs a lot of places, and you can just keep putting them in and keep getting free time. Other than that, I think it's something like $20 a month or something like that to access it. I know people have been doing it. It's getting more popular. I have to say though, I really think the whole thing is kind of just a fad.
You think so?
Yeah, I think like the talking to people and stuff like that's kind of cool, and I think there are some things that you could do on there that are kind of cool, but I really don't think that it's going to last. I mean, I think it's just like anything else where it's kind of a fad, and I think eventually, in the next few years it'll probably die down.
So you think people would rather talk face to face or on the phone, and even though, it takes longer and is more effort to...
What takes longer to call someone on the phone? You have to... I mean, we don't have rotary phones anymore. You can't... I mean, well, some of my grandparents still do, but like you just dial the number.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, that doesn't take long. Or if you really need to talk to someone right away, you page them.
Well, okay, but like, what about if you have a friend who lives in another state, right? So you're racking up all these long distance bills.
Well, yeah, the long distance thing is... But I mean, like, they want to charge $20 a month for this thing. I don't think anyone's going to pay $20 a month to have...
That's a little expensive, but
I mean,
not compared to long distance.
But I mean, just to be able to talk to people, like, through writing on this computer, And the other thing, too, is computers are expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I just got a computer for Christmas this year. And, so I've got one, and some other people are getting them, but, I mean, and it's, it does take a while to get on the thing, and it takes a while for stuff to load, as far as the online stuff goes, or the internet, or however you want to say it.
It does take a long time.
But, and it ties up the phone when you're doing it.
Right.
How many times have you been kicked off because, your mom picked up the phone because she wants to make a phone call?
Endless times.
Right. So, I'm just saying, if they can figure out a way for it to not tie up our phone lines, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe, but no one's going to be on there all day ever if it's tying up the phone lines all the time.
For sure.
But anyway, so that's our internet story, and I will say, even though I think it's kind of a fad, I think everyone should try it out. It's fun, and it's definitely something different. And yeah, if, try it out if you want to. And I think you can find those AOL discs. They're starting to get around. They just started them. I think I read in the newspaper that they started last year, like late 1993, and now they're getting more. More of them are out there, and this is how they're trying to get people to sign up for their service. So you can find them for sure, and try it out and see what you think of it. It's definitely a fun time.
Yeah, it's fun to play with for sure.
But we'll get into our TV picks of the week. I'll go first
Okay.
with my TV pick. As you know, everyone, I am a huge fan of Saved by the Bell: The College Years.
Piece of crap.
Carol does not like the show, but something exciting happened on this week's episode where Kelly is finally over Professor Lasky and she's open to dating Zach again, which is, I know that like I've been reading in the Variety and the different entertainment papers that it's not doing well as far as an audience goes. I mean, it's only got something like 10 million viewers, and stuff like that. And
Surprised there's that many.
well, I mean, that's low though, when you consider that the most popular shows get 30, 40 million people every week. But yeah, so they're only getting like 10 million. And now but I think this is the thing that is going to turn it around for everybody. This is what everyone wants to see, is Zach and Kelly back together. So to recap on the episode, it was sort of light on jokes. This episode, they tried some.
I'm sorry. So you think that everybody wants to see Zach and Kelly together,
Right.
and that now that this is so, listen up, people. Zach and Kelly are getting together. Let's see. Are those numbers gonna go up? Put the word out there. It's Zach and Kelly, everybody. Let's get on there.
Carol's got a lot of sarcasm for Saved by the Bell: The College Years.
It's stupid.
But you liked Saved by the Bell. I don't get it.
I liked Saved by the Bell, and I like Zach and Kelly, but the show, it's not entertaining anymore. Maybe I'm outgrowing it. I don't know. It's just, it's not doing it.
Well, I still like it, although I have some problems with it. But the woman that plays their dean, I think her last name's Holland. I think she's pretty good, but I don't like her in this role. I don't know. I think she needs to play I think she would be a good sarcastic mom.
Yeah.
I think she should do something like that. That would be, I think that's her kind of bread and butter.
Maybe. She's a good sarcastic mom versus a good sarcastic dean, then.
Well, just as a dean, she seems... See, I think you can get away in a sitcom with a mom being, super judgy and stuff like that, and always kind of cutting down, like her sons say. But as a dean, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. She's supposed to be, fostering the academic, life of these people.
I guess. I mean, Mr. Belding was supposed to be fostering their academic life, and
He did. You didn't watch Saved by the Bell closely. Mr. Belding, there were some episodes where they messed with his character a little bit, but those were only here and there. Most of the time, he was a caring, nurturing principal and instructor that really cared about his students and those kids. But he was, a quote unquote fool. He played the fool in the shows. His character is the most, in my mind, is the most important character in Saved by the Bell.
okay.
And maybe that's why, they got Mike Golick, the former NFL player, to to try to fill that role, and I don't think he does it like Mr. Belding did. I think maybe that's kind of, because he's the linchpin, so I think maybe that's why they're struggling. But I'm hoping that this will turn it around. But anyway, so the real quick plot of the episode is that Zach is doing all these things to try to get Kelly to fall in love with him again, but she's still hung up on Lasky, and Lasky comes into the hospital where she volunteers with an ulcer, and he's trying to push her away and all this stuff because he's a professor and she's a student. He doesn't want to date her, and eventually she realizes that Zach wants her and will do anything for her, and this guy won't. So she yells at Lasky and then intimates that she's interested in starting a relationship with Zach. So, there's a B plot with Screech getting a tattoo for the fraternity that he's joined, and Slater and who's the girl that he dates? Alex, yeah, that's right. I always mix up Alex and Leslie. But getting tattoos of each other's name, which, by the way, is dumb.
Oh, yeah.
I think Carol and I hope that Carol and I are together for the rest of our lives.
Aww.
But...
Me too, baby.
And that you always host the show with me. But I don't ever plan on getting a tattoo of Carol's name on my body.
How dare you?
Well, I don't...
Honey, I don't want one either, don't worry.
Yeah, I think it's...
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's one of those dumb things that people do.
Not as dumb as getting, what was it the one guy in the show had? Tweety Bird on his back?
Yeah, Tweety Bird on his butt.
He's supposed to be the Mr. Belding replacement?
I know, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't work. Yeah. But yeah, he... that's another thing, too. I like the show a lot, but that's such a cheap joke. Someone having a tattoo on their butt is like the cheapest humor possible.
Yeah.
But anyway, the other show that, what your pick for the week is...
Mad About You. This was such a cute episode. Paul had to go to Chicago to make a movie. And he was coming home every weekend. And, this just kind of follows from weekend to weekend, when he comes home and how things change between them. Like, in the beginning, she's waiting, desperately to see him. And, they go through different things where, like, after a few weeks, they can't sleep comfortably together. And, the one time he walks in and she's reading and she's just, like, puts her finger up, like, shit.
Right.
But it's super cute. And I love Paul and Jamie. I think that they are an awesome couple.
It reminded me a lot of You and Me watching the show.
How's that?
Just kind of, I don't know, like, I guess I put myself in their position, sort of, and I think, like, if I had to be away and we had, like, a long-distance relationship kind of like that for a period of time, that it's sort of similar to how we would be, kind of.
Maybe. I kind of hope we never have to find out. I don't think that would be fun.
No, I don't think it would be fun either, and I'm not saying that we should do anything like that. I'm just saying that I think, I don't know, just the way they kind of banter with each other, interact with each other and stuff, it just reminded me of us.
Yeah, I can see that.
But, yeah, that was definitely a good episode, and so many wacky things happen as her sister comes to live with them for a while, because she's afraid to go back to her apartment because someone stole her windows.
and Paul says he thinks she's hallucinating. I mean, seriously.
Who steals windows?
How do windows go away?
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't get how someone steals windows, and if you were going to steal windows, why that's the only thing you'd steal.
Right?
Like, if you're taking the windows out, then just go in and steal the stuff in the apartment.
For sure.
How much do windows go for on the black market? I don't get that one very much. But yeah, that's our TV picks of the week. Obviously, there's a lot of great TV shows out there, and we'll try to highlight some different ones every week. Just things that we thought were kind of the highlights of the week in television. But today, our main topic, and we did not, as we talked about yesterday, we did not go to the theater this time. This was my girlfriend Carol's pick because of my horrible pick of Cabin Boy last time. So, Carol, why don't you introduce what movie we saw and give your thoughts?
So we got to watch one of the best classic 80s movies ever, The Breakfast Club, one of my favorites.
9 years old already.
Yep, it's a great movie, though. It stands the test of time.
Yeah, so this came out when I was, like, I think in first grade, something like that.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
So, yeah, this John Hughes, obviously, the great John Hughes, and just a classic. The second movie that he ever directed, wrote and directed this movie. First one was 16 Candles, the year before, 10 years ago now. We're already on the 10th anniversary of 16 Candles.
Wow.
1984. Obviously, he started out at the National Lampoon magazine, for those of you from the 70s that remember that. And if any of the parents of our classmates are listening, and into the 80s, and he wrote for them, and then wrote the screenplay for National Lampoon's Vacation, which is one of my favorite movies
Yeah,
with
it's also good.
Chevy Chase and everything. And so he wrote that, and then he started making his own films. And this was the second feature that he ever did. Very, I don't want to say it's a claustrophobic movie, because it's not really, I mean, that's not the tone that it goes for, but it's it's a locked down movie. I guess that's kind of the best way to describe it. The camera's not always in a locked down position. It's not like a David Lynch film or something like that. But it all takes place in one location, this school, mostly in the library, and it's mostly dialogue between the characters as far as any kind of action goes.
And this movie is a character exploration. You know, you've got the different kind of archetypes of, cliched high school students. So you've got the princess, the jock, the brain, the criminal, as they called him,
Right.
and the basket case.
Right.
So I think that I would most closely identify with the basket case.
Yeah, we watched this with a few friends, and we rented it from Blockbuster, obviously, and we watched it with a few friends, and everyone said I'd be the jock, which I don't know that I 100% agree with.
But you play sports.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I guess that's probably the closest one for me.
Well, I mean, I guess the whole point is that nobody fits entirely into any of the categories, but...
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't say that you're exactly a basket case.
Well, no, I'm not, but I mean, I'm definitely not a princess.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, I love watching how the characters interact, and at the end, the changes that have occurred. I have a question for you, though, that one of our friends, Ava, brought up.
Sure.
Why do you think they call themselves the Breakfast Club?
Yeah, I don't know. That is interesting because they eat lunch.
Right, not breakfast.
Yeah, but they don't eat breakfast. They eat lunch, and they're there all day. They're there from, what is it?
7 a.m. to 4 p.m., 9 hours.
Right, so basically a school day. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they land on the name Breakfast Club. That's a really interesting question.
It's so weird because, I mean, this isn't like the first time I've seen it, but that never occurred to me.
But
and I'm sorry, I just want to say one more thing.
Good.
Brian, right? Brian was the brain.
Yes, Anthony Michael. Yeah.
When he asks them, what's going to happen on Monday, and if I come up to you in the hall, are we all still going to be friends? Mm-hmm. And you know what that reminded me of is my friend Heather, because I'm sure some of you know that I am not the most popular person, especially freshman year, and Heather has always been popular. Everybody loves her, and we walk around together. And some of you douches out there have said to her, "Hey, what are you doing with Carol? Hey, why are you hanging out with her?" And she'd be like, because she's my friend. That's right. I'm her friend. Suck it.
And that does seem like what's going to happen. Obviously, during that scene, Molly Ringwald's character, Claire, she answers what, she thinks is an honest answer and probably is the honest answer for a lot of people, where she says, they're probably not going to be friends.
Right.
That the popular kids deal with peer pressure to a degree that the other kids don't. And it's an interesting look at the social hierarchy of high school, where the ones who are really popular deal with all this pressure, and the ones who aren't deal with all this oppression from the ones who are popular, basically. And if you extrapolate it out into society, it's not, those classes aren't as clear. They're not as clearly defined, but they're all still there.
Yeah.
And if you look at the ones who are, quote, popular as politicians or the police or people in authority positions,
Right.
they can feel a lot of pressure from each other, from other outside forces. And then people who are, say, like poor or the homeless or don't have enough food, or minorities, homosexuals, they feel a lot of the oppression from those groups. There's a lot of people who are homosexual don't even feel like they can tell anyone. I would say I don't have, this is not scientific because I don't have scientific figures on this, but I would say, a good over 50%, maybe as much as 70 or 80% of people who are homosexual don't tell anyone they are, not openly.
I mean, they obviously tell some people, but yeah, they're not open about it.
Right. And, that's unfortunate that happens in society. And, I know that that black people don't face as much discrimination now nearly as they did 30 years ago. But there are still problems. There are still, there's still work that needs to be done. And so I think it's interesting to see how each high school sort of mirrors society in that way. Yeah. And like I said, it's in high school, there are really clear definitions. And in the real world, it's more muddled and harder to see. But I think it's definitely interesting. But I do think that they will remain friends. That's the thought that I get watching the movie.
Yeah, I think so too. I think she was wrong, and I think it may have changed for her too once she decided to date John.
Right. Yeah. What a great name too, Bender. That's a great name. That should be used more often. But yeah, I think the romantic relationships are a big part of the reason, because those seem to be able to transcend class. Because you don't get to choose who you like.
Right.
Basically. So, you get to choose your friends, and a lot of times people choose other people who are exactly the same as them. But when you fall in love with somebody, you don't really choose it, and I think that's the big difference. She likes John Bender, and she doesn't know why, Claire, but she does. So they start the beginning of a relationship, and it's the same with I can't remember his name. I mean, it's Emilio Estevez, but I can't remember his character's name.
Oh wow, neither can I.
But the jock, he likes Ali Sheedy's character, the basket case, especially after she got the makeover from Claire.
Yeah, that kind of bugs me.
But I think he liked her before anyway, because of they had that conversation, that very personal conversation between the two of them, where he talked about himself a lot and sort of the pressure he was feeling, and he talked to her about what her family life was like, and I think that relationship was born there, not when she got the makeover. Yeah. I don't think it was all about looks. I think Claire did that because she could see the relationship that was, and she was like, I'll help her out. And I think that turned his head a little more, but I think their relationship was already connected there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And like when he's talking, and she says to him, because you can't think for yourself, and he says, no, she's right. I think she, from that conversation, gained an understanding of him, and he gained an understanding of her.
Yeah.
And I think they connected as people and not their stereotypes. And I think that's kind of what the movie's about. And it's funny, 10 years later, almost 10 years later, it's still really relevant. It's still a really relevant movie, because those, just look at our high school, or, if you're from another high school, look at, another high school, or if your parents that are listening to this too, think about your high school when you were a kid. It's like that. I mean, those hierarchies and those different class structures, they all exist in high school still, and they probably will
forever.
Yeah, forever. I mean, it's just part of school's just set up like that. The fact that there are sports programs, there are academic programs, there are social clubs, like Claire was talking about, and things like that. That setup is a breeding ground for this type of separation of people.
Yeah.
And so that's why that's part of the reason why it's universal.
I mean, yeah, it's a separation for sure, but at the same time, it's also people are different, and school caters to different people, and I don't think that it's necessarily breeding, separation. It's just that's what kids do because they haven't learned to accept the differences yet.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's, people like talk about inclusion and stuff like that, and how different places different colleges will have quotas on how many of this type of person or how many of this type of person they'll let in, and things like that. And people talk about it like it's bad. I don't really necessarily think that it's bad. I mean, I wish that we were at a point where it didn't matter, that just the best students got to go where they wanted to go to college and stuff, no matter what. But I don't think it's necessarily bad, because the importance of it is seeing different type of people. Mm-hmm. Like, one of the reasons I like going to public school and I don't like private school as much is because in private school you meet kids that are all the same. They're all cut from the same cloth, for the most part. I guess unless let's say Country Day is a private school around us, they have a lot of athletes from Detroit or other, urban areas who are there on scholarship because they're super athletes that might not necessarily be able to afford to go to Country Day otherwise, because they get scholarships. And so they're different. I mean, not in a bad way or anything, but they're different. They've had a different upbringing. They're different types of people, mostly, than the upper crust, quote unquote, people that go there. But for the most part, in private schools, you have all the same type of people, mostly white, mostly from upper middle class or rich backgrounds, and they all have had similar experiences. When you go to college, like when you and I are going to go to college, I think it's nice to be able to meet someone who is black, or from, let's say, India, or Japan, or Germany, or something like that, or someone that grew up really rich, or someone that grew up really poor, someone that grew up in the middle, because they all have different experiences, they all have different takes on life, they all have different outlooks based on how they grew up. And I think that's important to get those different types of views.
Yeah, I hope that we do get to experience that in college.
But I think that's important to be able to. It's the same with like getting a liberal arts education in college. The importance of a liberal arts education isn't so that you can be a liberal arts teacher or whatever someone does with a liberal arts education, but it's exposure to different things. When you take art history, or when you take humanities, or you take some of these other classes that are not necessarily part of your major, then you get different perspectives and different ways to look at things and different ways to think about things, as opposed to, let's say you wanted to be an engineer and then you went to college and all you had to take was engineering classes. So you just learned about engineering and there were no prerequisites. Like, it's just engineering and math and science, and those are the only classes that you take, and you don't take any English, or there's no prerequisites for that.
Well, I think that's kind of the difference between a college degree and a certification.
Yeah, but I think, like I said, and yeah, I agree with what you're saying for sure. But I think the importance of that, of having to take those prerequisites that don't necessarily go to your major, is to be able to look at things differently and to get a different perspective on things, and to be just more well-rounded person.
Agreed.
But yeah, so The Breakfast Club definitely it's a funny movie, and it's a fun movie. I'm sure a lot of you have already seen it. It was a pretty popular film. But
if you haven't, you should.
Oh, for sure. Go to Blockbuster. We just returned our copy, so go to Blockbuster and check it out. But yeah, it's a fun movie and a funny movie, but it also has a lot of underpinnings of serious topics and discussions like Carol and I just had that you can get into, and I think it's a very interesting movie for sure.
Yeah, if anyone wants to continue these discussions, please come by my locker. I love talking about this movie. So
yeah, for sure. Me as well. And yeah, if you want us to talk about anything on the show, just like send us a note, or you can put it in the locker. If there's anything that you want to hear, anything you want us to touch on, or any questions you have or anything like that, you can do that, and we'll read it on the show.
And ladies, I want to know which of the guys you think is hotter. I mean, I think in 90% of cases it's not Brian, but it could be. The brain Brian, the criminal John, or the jock whose name escapes us, Emilio Estevez. So
who would you pick?
Yes.
I think you would probably think John.
Yes.
Yeah. And you don't think that I'm him. Now, is that just looks or attitude?
It's the whole thing.
Yeah.
But, just because you're not a burnout criminal. You know that.
Fluster there, huh? And guys, which girl do you think is prettier? There's this one. There's only two to choose from.
And which one do you think's prettier?
Ali Sheedy's character.
Really?
Yeah. I think Ali Sheedy is prettier than Molly Ringwald just in general.
Okay.
But I like Ali Sheedy's character more than if you talk about personality, just as their characters, not the actresses, because
right.
I don't know the actresses, but the characters in the movie, I like her. She seems more introspective. She seems like she understands people better. She has a kind of a lot like you in instances where it seems like she'd be interested in psychology and stuff like that, because she seems to understand people really well. And yeah, I like her character better. But that is our film for this week. Next week, I'm going to have to look at the paper again. I'm not exactly sure what is coming out in theaters. I know that at the beginning of next month is one I'm kind of looking forward to. It's, Jim Carrey, who was in Living Color, Fire Marshal Bill.
Yeah.
He's in a new movie. I think it's his first movie, called Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Oh, okay, that should be funny.
So that looks like, I've seen previews for it that looks like it's going to be pretty humorous. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm not sure exactly what's coming out next week, though. We'll look through the paper and we'll decide on something to do. But our last segment is our Blockbuster pick of the week. Now, not a lot has come out this week to VHS. So, we only have one pick this week. Normally, Carol and I try to do one each. But the only pick this week is a movie that came out last year called Heart and Souls with Robert Downey Jr. But this movie is basically 3 people die, or 4 people I think it is, die. and they come back as ghosts as they are guardian angels to Robert Downey Jr.'s character, and it's sort of a romantic comedy about his life and them trying to help him and sort of earn their way into heaven, kind of thing. It's a very charming and good movie. It's kind of a romantic comedy, like I said, but it has some more elements than that, and it's a really, as a romantic comedy, it's really good anyway. So Heart and Souls, it's available at Blockbuster now. I would suggest everyone check it out, and yeah, that's our pick for the week. So maybe I'll get Carol to see that at some point.
Maybe. I do like the romantic comedies. So.
It's like pulling teeth getting you to watch some of these movies that I want to see.
I'm scared of what you want to see.
No, I know. Just one bad pick does not make a person's entire oeuvre.
Well, you'll have to redeem yourself.
Yeah, well, we'll see next week what's playing and what we're going to do. But that is our show for the week. Thank you for listening. We will see you all next week. Again, if you want to let us know what you want to hear or have a question or anything, you can leave a note for us.
Yep.
We're also taking donations for the show. If we give these cassette tapes away for free.
Slide it in my locker, not his.
So if you want, you can slide $1 into Carol's locker or something like that. If you feel like it, no pressure. But yeah, we're enjoying doing this for you guys, and every little bit helps, to be able to pay for us to go to the movies and all the time and rent these videos and stuff like that. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Have a good week.